Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. I am Jenna Zeidler, a member of your Board of Trustees. We are an intentionally inclusive, welcoming community dedicated to peace and justice, and we celebrate your presence here. We have large print programs, large print hymnals, and hearing assistance devices available from the ushers if any of those items are helpful to you. Please check that your phone is silenced. Thank you. Children of all ages are welcome to attend classes after we sing them out or remain with us for the service. If this is your first visit, please accompany your children downstairs to register. Audio can be heard in the fellowship hall. You may re-enter the sanctuary quietly at any time. Due to flu and other concerns, we recommend that you refrain from shaking hands or hugging during the greeting time this morning or during fellowship. Smiles are non-contagious. If you prefer to remain quiet during this time, please place your hand over your heart and we will respect your wish. I invite you to take a minute to greet those around you. Sorry.
This year, we have begun doing a land acknowledgement of the indigenous peoples of this land at the beginning of our service, and there will be a moment of silence after the acknowledgement. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather today on indigenous land taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacements and oppression of Native peoples and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and the protection of our world. Thank you. Good morning. This is the final Sunday of our annual generosity campaign, and I want to thank the members of the generosity team for leading us so creatively through this time. So will the members of the team please stand? And I'd love to, and successfully, I should say, through this time. And I'll also love to have you come up and be part of the Chalice Lighting, so you can come on up. This is also the first Sunday of our March Soul Matters theme of wisdom. So this is a day of celebration. And I have heard rumors of cake after the service. Is this true? I hope. But we're also going to be considering, where does wisdom come from? How do we find wisdom? Are there different kinds of wisdom? And how could this old-fashioned word matter in these times? I think of the great words of the theologian Reinhold Niebuhr in his Serenity Prayer, which I'm sure many of you know. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Please now join me in the words of our chalice lighting in your order of service. We light this chalice not simply in the hope that we will be led to wisdom, but for the spark that arises when wisdom is found. We pray for the wisdom makes us new. We long for the wisdom that reveals the connections between us. We hunger for the wisdom that heals our hearts. Now please rise and body your spirit for hymn number 355, We Lift Our Hearts in Thanks.
This year, during the last month of our generosity campaign, we have been creating a very special garden. And this is the last Sunday for our garden, since it's Pledge Sunday. While the children's choir and maybe a few friends come up to sing us their garden song, could I also have a few kid volunteers, maybe who aren't singing, to help us up here with the flowers? Anybody want to come up and help? Come on up, come on up. All right. These are experienced flower helpers, I know. So might have a few more here. All right.
15 years ago, before the garden started, there were no healthy fruits and vegetables available for sale. Nowhere. Not even an apple, a banana, or an orange at the gas station. You could get beef jerky, and you could get chips, you get hot Cheetos, you get a fried fish sandwich, but you couldn't buy any fruits or vegetables. They were a long way away, and the food was moved away. It was kind of food apartheid. Food was apart from people who needed it. And to get food, people couldn't even take the bus because the bus didn't run to North Prospect at the time. They could walk, but there weren't any sidewalks, so they had to walk on the shoulder of the road. The people who lived closest to the food on the north end couldn't get there. But there were people that the stores sent special buses to the university to pick up students so that they could come and shop and then go back to campus. But the people who lived closest lived in North Prospect that didn't have cards had a hard time trying to get food, healthy fruits and vegetables. Then the garden came. First we started off with 8 beds. Now we are 66 beds, plus a quarter of an acre in Rosa. And Church of the Brethren just gave us the south-facing lawn for more beds because we ran out of beds in the garden. We cropped some of them last year 3 times and still had people waiting for beds. But what we decided to do too, each person who plants in our garden plants 1 row either for our cash crop to help support the garden or for our starts. That way people who come late in the season don't have to start from seed. Because if you plant too late in this latitude and longitude, you won't get to harvest anything. A lot of people come to the garden. Last year there were 9 different languages spoken. And we learned from them too. I did not know that what we call pigweed was actually edible until this Mayan-speaking family came to garden with us. And I'm pulling up this pigweed because it's all over the place, it volunteers. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting rid of these weeds." She said, "Oh no, it's good, we eat that." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, here, fix me some so I can taste it." So she lives across the street. Later that day, she brought me back this delicious dish. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I go, I take a leaf, I look up online. It's called Ararat. And not only can you eat the leaves, they're a high protein, high vitamin leaf. You can make flour out of the stickers that get all over your clothes. And I was like, okay, there's another one. We had already just enjoyed eating the lamb's quarter, another high vitamin weed. And so we decided to host a gathering walk, a gleaning walk, where people could walk around the garden and then out into the community and harvest things that grow on their own. We called the university, and a student who's studying came out to help us identify things. And it was really eye-opening. We found pawpaw trees like half a block from my house that I didn't know were there. And there were so many things, wild grapes, wild strawberries in the church lawn. Okay. Only as big as a thumbnail, but not real sweet, but very strawberry-y. So we do a lot of things at the garden. We have a half-day garden camp for children in the summer. It runs from 8 to 12. We take care of our garden beds, and then we have craft activity. On Mondays, we have dinner theater over the lunch hour because we have stories. And there's a special class for people under school age, because only school age kids can come to garden camp. But we have a program called Parent and Child, or PAC. It's a good PAC. And it's for toddlers who come with an adult. And They don't grow very much. It's more like play in the dirt kind of day. But at the end of the summer, if they know when it's time to go, that they go to wash their tools, I'm happy. So, did you have a question?
There's basically a fruit probably covered strawberries and other strawberries, then how would that make sense?
Chocolate-covered strawberries are a superfood. They've got chocolate in them. So we start gardening early, like today's March 1st. We'll be getting in there really soon, putting some stuff underneath jugs, plastic jugs. Each plant gets its own little greenhouse that way. But we have a garden kitchen. The church let us teach classes in canning and other ways to preserve our bounty. And we have a garden club at the local elementary school. And let's see, what else is, we're a site. Sometimes students who go to Urbana and Champaign schools and Rantoul schools come to our job training program. So they get paid to come help take care of the garden. They get their own bed, and that way they can have some skin in the game. They can sell their vegetables, or they can take them home. One young man sold his vegetables to his mother. He said, well, she was going to buy vegetables from Buyer. So we just figured out how much she spent on vegetables, and now I bring the vegetables home. She gives me the money. It works for them, so yeah, they're happy. I'm tickled to death. Vegetable gardens, yeah. So we're very excited this year because we're going to get more land. As I said, we're going to be, it's really important when you ask people things. Remember this, okay? Because during our budget session, I said, is that what we paid to have the grass cut? Yeah, well, we're going to budget about that this year too. I said, Jimmy would be just as happy taking care of vegetables. And then we'd have garden space right here next to the food pantry. And they said yes. So we're probably going to get 10 more beds out of it. Of course, we're on that busy street, so that the vegetables don't taste like exhaust, and so that we can grow year round, we're going to put a greenhouse around it. So I'm excited about that. But I hope that some of you will come to some of our programs this summer. If you're in a day camp or you have Vacation Bible School and you're looking for a field trip, we have tours of our herb garden called the smell tours. And we smell stuff and taste stuff too. Have you ever tasted sativia? We grow that there. You put a leaf on your tongue, it's very sweet, even sweeter than sugar. So this is how the Randolph Street Community Garden, emphasis on community, helps our community, and how it brought fresh, healthy vegetables and fruits back to the North End. Thank you.
And you might not have seen this, but the Randolph Street Community Garden is, we're going to sing you out. So, we're going to sing the different song that the youth chose for last week. It's in your order of service, the words, and they're going so fast, maybe we'll just let them run out with the song. Let's sing. What I was going to say, before I caught them all running out, was that the Randolph Street Community Garden is our shared offering for this month. And so your support, your financial support, who knows how many beds they could end up with by us supporting the garden for the month. I think this is really wonderful. Thank you. So I think now Mona Shannon has a generosity testimonial, our last of the season.
Thank you, Dawn, for sharing that wonderful information about the garden. It's so wonderful to have that in our community, and I'm so happy we get a chance to hear about it and support it. My name is Mona Shannon, and as most of you know, I have the honor of serving as the chair of the generosity team. UUCUC is self-sustaining and self-governing, and each year, through the generosity of our members and friends, we support all the work that we do here. And I have to say, this generosity from this congregation always amazes me. My 3 sons grew up here in the RE classes, exploring world religions and finding their own path, and now I see that commitment in their lives to social justice, and it's so heartwarming to know it really came from all of you. You also have a dedication to caring for each other. When my husband got sick with ALS, this congregation reached out to me with meals, with loving support, and just listening, just being there. And after he passed and I was looking for a new way and trying to figure out what my next steps were, you were there for me. And you helped me explore and learn. You helped me follow. And you gave me chances to lead. And those were very important to me. When my youngest son got married and was dealing with how to do that without his father there, Reverend Caplow was there to help us through that and really see the bright side of having him there in spirit. So all the things we go through together, that's part of our generosity. I personally have explored a lot in our adult education program, and I'm really looking forward to the Living Legacy pilgrimage that I'll be going on with some of you in 2 weeks, and that's an interfaith group, and being able to connect with the community like that is, I think, absolutely the right direction that we are going as a congregation. Today is Pledge Sunday, so we celebrate. I invite you all to come and have a piece of cake and to grab a frog and see how far you can make it leap to help celebrate the leap that we have taken here together. And it has been a really great leap. I also want to say that it's not too late to leap with us. This is Pledge Sunday, and so please do come and pledge. You can pledge online. You can pledge at the table. You can send it in. We accept all of that. And before I sit down, I want to take one moment just to express my appreciation to everyone who worked on our team, to everyone who pledged. And I want to give a special thank you to our first-time pledgers, to our Fair Share pledgers, and to everyone who set a personal goal. And I have a special request this year, and that is that each of us be really kind to ourselves. I see people being so kind to each other, but sometimes we have to be kind to ourselves and really honor the gift that we can make. Whatever that gift is, every single person matters, and every single person's gift is appreciated. So start with yourself. Honor yourself. It's an important part of being generous, is being generous with ourselves. And let us celebrate with the, 116 individuals who have joined the Leadership Circle by increasing their pledges by 15% or by giving a one-time gift. Yay! To me, this shows that we are looking forward and that we are committed to the work, the justice work, and the ministries of this congregation. Thank you.
As you know, acknowledge that we are part of the interdependent, sacred web of life, the web of our connections with each other, with the wider community, and with the whole world. This time in the service each Sunday is a time to honor and lift up those connections. In the spirit of our commitments to each other, please take a look at the 9 beautiful visions for our future that you It was you actually sharing with the strategic planning team, the DREAM team, over the last few months. And they're also on big posters at the far end of Fellowship Hall. And I know the team is really interested in your thoughts and comments, so please engage in any way you can. At noon today, the worship associates, Jennifer Green is our worship associate today, but there's a whole team, are sharing lunch. And if you would like to join us, you are invited to learn more about what it is to be a worship associate, if that has ever called to you in any way. And as part of that, from 1 to 3, I'm going to be offering a workshop that I did a couple of times in my first year here on reading poetry aloud. So please come. You are welcome to one or both. Finally, next Sunday, there is a free organ concert with one of the really great local organists, organized by our music committee, celebrating our wondrous organ and its history. So please, Saturday, sorry, I said Sunday. Yes, it says Saturday right here. Saturday the 7th. However, as you heard earlier in the service, we need to take care of each other in this time of heightened concern about flu and other viruses that shall remain nameless. And this is really quite serious. We have immune-compromised people in this congregation. And even though you might think that the person you're about to hug or shake hands with is not, those are often invisible immune issues. So please, during this time, let's smile at each other. Let's elbow bump. Let's do whatever we can to take care of each other's health. Use the hand sanitizer that is in the fellowship hall. We'll try to have more around. And don't be afraid to wear a face mask if that is what makes you feel better about being with others at this time. And also, we will do our best to record and video services, to have those up quickly, so that if you feel like you need to stay home, either to take care of yourself in terms of your own health or to protect yourself, please know that you can still participate in those ways. And also, if you do get sick, we hope you don't, but if you do and you need food or support, please, please, please reach out to us. As you heard, that is part of our spirit as a congregation. Also, in the spirit of our connections with the larger Champaign-Urbana community, I want to acknowledge the tragic loss this week of Tanisha Jenkins from domestic violence. She was a close friend to several people connected to our church. And there is a GoFundMe page for her family, and I will post that on our members and friends page. Thank you so much.
Each Sunday, we share our Sunday offering with local and national organizations in alignment with our values, voted on by members and friends of UUCUC each year. Our shared offering for March is the Randolph Street Community Garden. Thank you so much, Dawn Blackman, for sharing your intimate knowledge and the generosity and bounty of that garden for the neighborhood. The offering will now be taken. say that more often. Role model here. Thank you for your generosity, expressed in this and so many other ways. Each Sunday, we bring our individual joys, sorrows, and concerns to the sanctuary, and we generally light candles for these joys and sorrows. Due to the viral risks at this time, we are instead this morning going to offer colored glass marbles. You can come up to the front chalice table at the front or the table at the center of the sanctuary, pick up a marble, and put it in the bowl that's there. If you have a joy or concern that you would like shared aloud this morning, you can find cards in the holders in front of you or in the pedestal in the back. You can bring them forward to the wooden tray here on the front table. Please write carefully so that our minister can honor what you wrote. And there are words to a blessing song in your order of service. You are invited to join in song or just let it wash over you. You are invited forward at this time. Our reading this morning is by David White from The House of Belonging, entitled The Journey In. Above the mountains, the geese turned into the light again, painting their black silhouettes in an open sky. Sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens, so you can find the one line already written inside you. Sometimes it takes a great sky to find that first bright and indescribable wedge of freedom in your own heart. Sometimes, with the bones of the black sticks left when the fire has gone out, someone has written something new in the ashes of your life. You are not leaving, even as the light fades quickly now. You are arriving.
I'd like to begin with a story this morning. Those of us who don't have children of our own are sometimes blessed with sweet connections with other people's children, and that has been true for me. 16 years ago, I bought a little cabin on a bay in Washington State, and shortly afterwards, I met my new neighbor and her two children, who were 4 and 6 at the time. Judith, my neighbor, is an artist and jeweler who works with sea glass, pebbles, rare stones, coins, ancient coins, silver and gold, crafting unique and extraordinary pieces of jewelry. She and her children, Sophia and Raleigh, have been part of my life all of these years, though they live year-round in that little village by the bay, and I'm more migratory, I'd say, but they have all been blessings in my life. Over the years, Judith's children grew and changed, as children are wont to do, and I have been witness to these changes year after year. Almost every summer for these many years that we've known each other, we camp out one night on a sandy island across the lagoon from our houses. We make a fire, we roast marshmallows, we eat way too many roast marshmallows. We end up with sand everywhere, and we tell stories to each other. 10 years ago, the summer Sophia was moving from child to youth, about the same age as our children when they're in our year-long coming-of-age program. Her mother secretly made her a beautiful silver ring with an ancient Greek coin from Athens set in silver. The coin showed the goddess Athena on one side, the patron of Athens and also of wisdom, and her animal companion, an owl, on the other side. We were camping out on the island when Judith gave the ring to Sophia as a surprise as we sat around the fire and a full moon rose over the bay. As I think back to that full moon night and this carefully crafted gift from a mother to a daughter on the perilous cusp of growing up, a gift with the image of the goddess of wisdom, I think, yes, that is what every parent I've known wishes for their child as they watch them begin their own path into the world. Wisdom. Wisdom to sidestep somehow the many dangers and pitfalls that lurk for young people, that probably their parents fell into themselves. Wisdom to choose well in love. Wisdom to find their way with no stumbles. And Judith, who named her daughter Sophia at her birth, and Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom, gave her a parental talisman and blessing at the entrance of what is, in many ways, another birth. And yet, when I think of myself at the age that Sophia was on that night, and when I think of Sophia's life as it has unfolded since that night, I think, oh, despite the best parental hopes, wisdom comes slow. And with many stumbles, and even some hard falls. And hey, it's not just when we're young. I was talking to someone yesterday in their 70s who said that when she was younger, she had thought that one day, perhaps when she was in her 70s, she would truly and finally be wise. But come to find out, she's still learning too. Still learning how to live this complex and confusing life. Wouldn't it be nice if developing wisdom was as straightforward as learning a new musical instrument or learning how to knit? And that made me think of a part of a poem by the late poet Adrienne Rich that I've loved since I was probably about 18. No one ever told us we had to study our lives, make of our lives a study as if learning natural history or music, that we should begin with the simple exercises first, and slowly go on trying the hard ones, practicing till strength and accuracy become one with the daring to leap into transcendence, take the chance of breaking down the wild arpeggio or faulting the full sentence of the fugue. And in fact, we can't live like that. We take on everything at once before we've even begun to read or mark time. We're forced to begin in the midst of the hard movement, the one already sounding as we were born. I myself, in a rather desperate search for how to live my life, spent a lot of time as a young person reading books, hoping to find wisdom that way. You all know how that went. For a while, I thought that studying philosophy would help me become wise. Those of you who have studied philosophy, or maybe there's someone out here who's even taught philosophy, could probably attest to the poor correlation between knowing philosophy and living a life of wisdom. I have also tried sitting at the feet of various great spiritual teachers, probably a bit more than the average person has done, which might say something about my level of desperation, and which really is a fine thing and probably several orders of magnitude more useful than simply reading wise words. But still, I have remained remarkably foolish nonetheless. Even, and I'm sure this will shock you, going to seminary and being a minister does not necessarily correlate with greater wisdom, unfortunately. So if books don't bring wisdom, or philosophy, or religion, or great teachers, or even divinity school, where does it come from? How do we find it? How do we live into it? Over the course of the next few Sundays, Reverend Bill Breeden and I and a couple of guest ministers will be exploring these very questions from various points of view. Next week will be dedicated, I'll be speaking about the wisdom of the body and the hands. And I heard a rumor that Bill may be talking about Hank, an insane rooster, as part of his reflection the following week, but I I can't tell you anything more than that. Those in our Soul Matters small groups will also be considering these questions of wisdom this month. So this Sunday is just a start, which is probably just as well, because really, could there be a topic larger than wisdom? As I sat with these questions, I thought of one of my favorite Zen koans. Koans, as some of you may know, are teaching stories, usually about an encounter between Zen people where one person has a life-changing insight. And often those encounters are between a Zen teacher and their student or students. But in this story from ancient China, the two people are friends traveling together. Yantu and Xuefeng were Zen monks on a pilgrimage, and one day they got snowed in at a place called Turtle Mountain. Day after day, as they waited for the snow to melt, Yantu napped, while Xuefeng sat up and meditated earnestly. On the third day, Yantu sat up too and said, "Get some sleep. What do you think you are, a roadside shrine?" Xuefeng touched his chest and said, "My heart isn't at peace. I can't fool myself." So Yantu compassionately asked his friend to tell him about his insights and experiences with Zen masters, and Xuefeng told a bunch of stories about what he had learned from famous teachers of his time. Yantu listened, and then he sighed and said to his friend, "Don't you know that the family treasure doesn't come in through the gates of the town? Let wisdom flow out of your own heart to cover heaven and earth." Xuefeng was suddenly enlightened at these words and cried out, dancing around the little room, "Today, Tortoise Mountain has finally awakened. Today, Tortoise Mountain has finally awakened." Okay, so Zen koans are kind of odd stories, but I do love this one. In my life, I have been more like Xuefeng than Yantu. I used to call myself tries too hard woman. I wanted to get wisdom through sheer effort and willpower, like Xuefeng and his earnest meditation. But what Yantu reminds his friend after he wakes up from his 3-day nap is that real wisdom lies in your own heart, through your own hard learnings, something that, in a way, no one can really give you, nor can anyone take it away from you. I also love that wisdom is in the heart rather than in the head, where we ordinarily look for it. And when Xuefeng finally lets that in, that the treasure he has been seeking everywhere is actually within his own heart, his life changes. Of course, it's not always that dramatic, dancing around saying, "Tortoise Mountain has finally awakened, Tortoise Mountain has finally awakened." In fact, I would say most of the time, finding real wisdom is not dramatic at all. And here's a straightforward description of the kind of wisdom most of us, I think, can perhaps relate to a little better. This is by Portia Nelson, and it's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I am in this same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. I really can't top that, so I'd like to invite you to please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. As we go forth this morning, my wish is that we find and appreciate the hard-won wisdom in our own hearts and in the hearts of others, all of us stumbling and falling and finding wisdom together.